You're about to meet someone new. Before they finish saying hello, your brain has already decided whether you can trust them. You won't feel the decision happen, and later you'll swear you judged them on who they really are. You didn't. Here's what's going on. Your brain grabbed one thing it could see, usually how good the face looks, and used it to guess everything it couldn't. Good looks go in. Good character comes out. You weighed no evidence at all. One nice quality leaked into all the others, the way a single drop of ink spreads through a glass of water. This is the halo effect, and it runs your judgments all day without asking your permission. Start with the study that made the idea famous. Show people photos of strangers and ask them to describe the person inside, and the good-looking faces come back with better lives attached to them. Kinder on the inside, more honest. Assumed to have the better job, the happier marriage, the more interesting life. That's a 1972 study by Dion and her team at the University of Minnesota. They summed it up in 5 words that became the whole idea. What is beautiful is good. Sit with how odd that is. The volunteers had one piece of information, a face. From that alone, they confidently guessed jobs, marriages, and inner lives they had no way of knowing. And they weren't being silly. They were doing exactly what your brain does on its own. Take the one thing it can see and treat it like a window into everything it can't. But a bias that stayed in the lab wouldn't matter much. This one leaves the lab. Good-looking defendants get lighter sentences and are less likely to be found guilty, and that shows up in real courtrooms, not just in mock juries. Same alleged crime, better face, more mercy from the system. It follows you to work too. Attractive people earn more over a lifetime. Economists gave it a name, the beauty premium and the plainer looking pay, a penalty of a few % on their wages. Spread that across 40 years and it becomes real money. The halo isn't a compliment, it's a currency. And now the part that turns on you, you're probably telling yourself you'd never be this shallow that you see past a nice face. Here's the uncomfortable bit. The halo effect isn't really about looks at all. And it isn't something that only happens to other people. Take one essay, give it to some readers with a photo of a good-looking author and to others with a plain one. The good-looking author's essay gets scored higher, and the effect is strongest when the writing is actually bad. That's a 1974 study by David Landy and Harold Sigel. The weaker the work, the more the good looks rescued it. Beauty didn't just win the close calls, it covered the failures. So it was never only about beauty. A single thing that stands out hijacks how we judge everything else, including how smart or honest or skilled someone seems. Looks are just the easiest input to see. A confident voice does it. A firm handshake does it. A job title, a nice suit, a calm tone of voice. Anything your brain can read in a second becomes the seed it grows a whole imaginary person from. And here's where it stops living in your head and starts changing the world. Treat someone as if they're wonderful, and they often become more wonderful right in front of you. Men were asked to talk on the phone with a woman they'd never met, after being shown a photo. Some were told she was attractive, some were told she was plain. The photos were fake, but the men who thought they were talking to a beautiful woman were warmer and more playful on the call. And the women, who had no idea any photo existed, warmed up right back. Strangers who later heard only the woman's half of the call rated those women as friendlier and more likable. That's a 1977 study by Mark Snyder and his team. Read that again. The men's belief was false, but it pulled the very warmth out of the women that the men had imagined was already there. The halo didn't just bend how people saw, it made itself true. Treat someone as capable, and they relax and do better. Treat someone as shady, and they tense up and start to look guilty. The good-looking person isn't just handed credit they didn't earn. They're raised across a whole lifetime, inside a world that keeps giving them the benefit of the doubt. People tend to grow into whoever they're constantly told they already are. Which raises a darker question. Where does this begin? Because if it were just something we learn, picked up from years of pretty faces on screens, you'd expect it to switch on slowly. It doesn't. Babies only a few months old, far too young to have learned any idea of beauty, will stare longer at the faces adults rate as attractive. 3 months old, no words yet, and they already hold their gaze on the pretty face. It shapes how kids get treated from the start. Give teachers the same report card and change only the photo clipped to the front. And the better-looking child gets marked as smarter and more likely to succeed. Same grades, same file, different face, different future. So this is not a habit you picked up along the way. It's older than your opinions. It's a shortcut. Your brain was already running before you had language, before you had memory, before you had a self to feel embarrassed about it with. The name is almost an afterthought. A researcher back in 1920 noticed that army officers rating soldiers couldn't keep the traits apart. A soldier who looked impressive got scored as smarter and more loyal too, as if one bright spot cast a glow over everything else. He called that glow a halo. He was studying military reviews, not beauty, which tells you what this really is, not a bias about attractive people, a flaw in how the mind rates anything at all. And here's the part that should bother you most. We have decided as a society to do almost nothing about it. You can't legally refuse to hire someone for their race or their religion. We built laws around that because we agreed those judgments were unfair. But you can absolutely pass over someone for being unattractive, and it happens constantly, and it's legal almost everywhere. Same measurable bias, same real cost to real people. It's the one form of unfairness we've quietly agreed to keep, mostly because we like to pretend we don't do it. So what can you actually do? When the bias starts before you're even aware of it, you can't switch the halo off. But you can catch it. When you notice a fast, certain feeling about a stranger, treat that certainty as a warning light, not a verdict. Ask one plain question. What has this person actually done? And what am I just filling in? Name the thing your judgment is really leaning on, the voice, the face, the suit, when it matters. Like hiring or grading, take the face out of it. Blind reviews and set questions asked of everyone aren't corporate box ticking. They're the only known way to stop a pretty face from quietly grading itself. The halo runs on speed and on hidden information. Slow down and make the information plain, and you take away most of its power. So come back to tomorrow morning. You'll walk into a room, you'll meet someone new, maybe an interview, a first date, a stranger at a desk deciding something about your life. And in that first tenth of a second, before either of you speaks, a verdict forms, theirs about you. Yours about them, built from a face and a posture and a voice, then quietly stretched to cover honesty and worth. You'll feel sure, and it won't feel like a guess. It'll feel like simply seeing the person clearly. That feeling of clarity is the halo. It never announces itself as bias. And every single day in courtrooms and classrooms, it hands out fortunes and takes them away for reasons none of the people involved could name. You've stood on both sides of it. Somewhere there's a person you were quietly kind to because they were easy to look at, and somewhere there's a person you wrote off before they said a word who never found out why the door stayed shut. So tell me about a moment you can't quite explain. A time you trusted someone almost instantly on next to nothing and later wondered what you were really reacting to. Or the opposite, a time you dismissed someone and only afterwards saw how little they'd done to deserve it. Tell me what it was about them and see if you can find the real reason under the one you gave yourself. If you'd like to keep looking at the quiet machinery running under your own mind, consider subscribing, and I'll keep showing you how it works.